I make noise and then you laugh now. You are the only one I wanna see. This is my destiny and I'll fight for it. These are my rules. I will redeem myself. Give me a reason to live. I will feel your falling down like rain. Give me a reason to I need your eyes and a new heart now. You are the only one I wanna see. This is my destiny and I fight for it. These are my rules. I will wait for redeem myself. Give me a reason to live. I will feel you falling down. Give me a reason to I don't wanna be the guardian of fate, the one who takes a human life when the time comes. Quicksand under my feet, I feel sinking. Come with me.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you guys are. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining me. I'm trying out this new set, so I'll be looking that way. If you saw my community post or video, whatever, I put a little thing up about building this little, not building, like putting this attachment, a wall attachment for the computer screen. And it's over here, and I realized it's a bit too high, so I got to keep looking like that. So if you see me looking like that, it's because I'm looking up there. Apologies. Thank you for joining me. This one's a heavy one, like a really heavy one. I am going to try to keep it light and try to not be too heavy with it. But it's one of those things when you go, why aren't more people talking about it? Well, because people are suppressing it. The media's suppressing it, and they've been suppressing. The police have been suppressing. The government's been suppressing it until when people started speaking out, they started arresting them. You conspiracy theories, you can't tell them the truth. Whitey can't lie, but the black dude or the brown dude or the caramel dude, no, you can't. Well, it was all true. It was a gang. It was a gang of nutters, of these creeps, of these losers, these animals, monsters, vile human beings, whatever you want to call them. They were everything. And I remember coming back to, as you guys know, if you've been here before, thank you for joining me. Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it. As you know, I put out a little post today about I'm trying to be on schedule. I'm going to put myself through hell, but I'm going to get there. Um, and when are we going to going live on Wednesdays, which is Tuesday, Northern Hemisphere, and then it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is basically Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or something like that, or Monday. I don't know. Either way, it's a day after. The day I'm on is a day before for you guys in the Northern Hemisphere. So apologies for looking up like this, making me. It's already making me feel awkward, just like looking there and seeing myself looking up into the sky, like searching for some, some savior out there. I came across this in about 2019, and around about 2018. This whole thing about the gangs, about the friggin' grooming gangs, the ape gangs, the grape gangs, whatever you want to call them, the monsters who got together, who were of my skin color, and started, in Britain, started grooming, abusing, sexually violating, young girls. And I'm sure there are young boys amongst them as well. But we'll find out what's going on here, because monsters don't differentiate. I've learned from experience. All right. So that song I just played was from Marta Vix. Vix. This is her channel here. Please go give her a follow. I was quite surprised that she didn't have enough people follow. Like a video came out a day ago, and she's only got 2.16K followers. She's an amazing artist. She's only got 22 videos out. But what talent, man. Like, I was looking at it, I was going, well, who's this lady? What's it about? And then I was like, well, this is really cool, And yes, you guys know I like metal. I'm a metal fan. Have been one since about 85, 86, something like that. Hard rock. Um, this is her name here, Marta Vix. She posted her, you know, she posted her video on Thresh World. Was it Thresh World? Um, on Facebook. There's a group called Thresh. Let me find it for you guys. So if you guys are into metal, want to check out new artists, or artists who are posting up their stuff, or people who are sharing and of like-minded, who just love the metal, right? Who are metalheads. Uh, I think it's Thrash United, or is it Metal United? And I saw it. I think it was Metal United or something like that. But I saw it and I was like, I didn't even realize she had posted it herself, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, let's go check it out. And I come back to say, oh man, thanks for sharing, and I realize it's her. And so I said, I posted on the YouTube channel on the song. I said, hey, I want to. Why aren't more people? Why don't you have more viewers? You only got 148. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share it at the intro of my song, like I always do. Share of my song, share of my live stream, because as you know, this is what I do, and I've always done this as much as I can remember, where I play a song, at the start of the live stream, once people get in, enjoy themselves, get in the mood, get a bit more relaxed, and then all hyped up, depending what sort of style of music it is. And and I said to her, hey, please don't copyright strike me. I'm going to play it, but I mean, this is the one way of like letting people know what great music's out there, by actually, playing and sharing it. I mean, I've done this all my life. If I've made a friend, mate, wife, girlfriend, it's like always like, hey, check this out. And next thing you know, they're into it, even if they don't like it at first, right? Eventually they'll get into it. So please do check out Marta. She's amazing guitarist. And this is what as I've always said, I just realized it's a bit off kilter. Um, that like I love this living in this generation because of technology, being able to get to information so quick. And so I wasn't planning to do the grooming gang thing today. I had something else planned up, but I was viewing a live stream with had a panel of people calling in, and it's called Candid with Love now. And this is the other thing about this is that you're able to hear a lot of different voices from different communities that you would never have heard before because of the silencing of those communities, keeping people quiet so that horror can continue and abuse can continue in those communities. So let me grab Lavna's. She's a Pakistani Indian. Um, and she talks about what's happening in Britain because she's from Britain. And so the most recent one, I was in there for about watching this for about an hour or maybe half an hour, and I was like getting so emotionally angry that I just because of what she was saying and about everybody talking about what was happening uh, with white women in Britain by Asian men who marry them for their passport, for the citizenship, and treat them like they're second-rate citizens in their own country. And it was really horrible to hear that. And to be honest, I have seen bros from mainland India do that, not to the violent side because people aren't going to do that in public. But I've seen people marry other. Marry whitey or light brownie or indigenous people to to get the passport, right? To get the citizenship, get the residency, right? Or PR, permanent residence, right? And then the other next step is have children with them because now you have to stay even if your time to leave is up. You're like, oh, I've got a baby now, and so these are the tricks that migrants play on the local community. I was over my lifetime. I've moved out of my family home since I was 16, going on 17, and so I have lived with many cultures. And I've mentioned this before, but one of the ones that I lived amongst was Maori people, right? And like renting a room, boarding, whatever have you, flatting. And one of them was with three different times, one after the other, with solo Maori mums. And each of them had a child with an Indian man from the mainland India. And so, you know, I've spoken about the DPB in New Zealand, which is if you have a baby, then you get to go and live on welfare. And I've mentioned about how, when I was in the 90s, mid 90s, 13-year-old girls were getting pregnant just to do that. So they don't have to go to work, don't have to think about their future. It was just like, lock it in, like their parents were doing. Lock it in. You're sorted for the next 18 years as you raise a child and let society take care of you. And so, yeah, it's been one of the things that I've watched happen before my eyes, and I've thought this is not really good on society uh, because it's it's a really strange way of being part of society. It's like you're almost clocking out, all right? But also with the migrant thing, you're basically you're 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 grifting on the kindness of locals. Oh, like and usually there are slimy ways males behave, as we'll soon learn, when it comes to women. And it's not nothing new. It's happened for centuries, and it will continue to happen. It's never going to stop. It's there are people who are slimy, and we always say, well, why do women go with these slimy men? Well, they always feel like they can change them. They're like they want to mother them. They have this mother instinct. And look, I don't like to get out of my lane on these things, but we all know, right? there's a emotional maternal thing and built into females. It is there. It's biological. It's scientific. It's there. We, just like the males is there for us to provide. The moment we can't provide, we go into depression. The moment we lose our jobs, we lose our shit, right? And we feel, belittle. Our egos are gone. I've been through that several times over the past few decades. Um, you know, it's just how we are. It's like the moment you stop working, or are denied work or can't find work, your mental thing goes, well, you're useless, mate. You're not good to a society. It's like when the parent does, when a mother behaves in a evil way towards a child. I spoke about this last time when we were looking at about mothers putting their babies and children in ovens, right? So I'm not going to visit that again, for real, right? And so we look at that, we go, holy shit. So give me like a thumbs up or whatever to let me know the sound's coming through all right, and you guys with me. I'm trying to, like, the screen's over there, the cam's over there, man. I'm really gonna have to change this around. It's kind of weird trying to have it that I should, because usually I had it here, and then I screwed everything up to the wall, to the side of actually the bookshelf, and and now I'm like cranking. I'm just hoping my neck doesn't crack. By the way, I went to a dentist yesterday, and like I was like, I have really hard time lying my back for long positions because of my neck and spine injury, and so I had to go with a travel pillow and just to be comfortable. So it was cool. I mean, if this is for those of you guys who also have that issue, right? Take a travel pillow, especially the ones with the beans in them, plastic beans, because then you can move it around perfectly. And like for someone like me who, like, the first time I went in, I was in so much pain, not because of the tooth, which was painful, but like my back hurt more than the tooth getting grounded, and then so the next time I thought, man, I got to do something about it, even with the pillow, because they go, oh, like, here's a towel, you can put it. I have great dentists, ladies, like, they were amazing, but still didn't work. Then I decided, okay, I'm gonna have to take care of this business myself. So last 2 times, dude, perfect. But yeah, old age, man, and car accidents, and injuries and getting assaulted and all the whole bang, skateboarding. All right, that's a long intro, but thank you for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. As you know, I've changed the whole concept of this channel, going more towards a talk radio type thing, which I used to do in 2000s, and just been doing that for 2 years. So that sort of thing where I talk, show you stuff, and I interact with you. You interact with me, which is what I love. Right? If you're watching this on Twitter, thank you. But come hang out over here on YouTube so you can write your comments. Let me know if I'm an idiot, or if or if you like what I'm saying. Even if you don't like what I'm saying, it's fine. Let's have discourse, right? But before we start, I want to put on something that I came across recently, like this morning, right? Recently, that happened recently. It was about Piers Morgan. He had a lady on there who was denying from the United Nations, right? She was, and I was so angry. I was like tweeting at on Elon Musk and at Trump, going, "This lady needs to be removed." And I don't do that normally, but when it comes to uh, sexual violence and children, that's one thing that I will allow myself to be angry over and emotional over, hands down. And so I was like, they're going, you know, um, this lady does not deserve to have a position. And basically, she was denying the fact that the UN itself had found that there was a systemic uh, mutilation and raping and abuse of victims during October 7th last year, during the Islamic massacre of Jews and foreigners at the music festival in Israel. So let's start with that, and then we'll walk into, you know, the grooming gang, because it's most recent, right? So I thought that was pretty crazy that even though the UN itself has found this happened on dead bodies of females, right? But also, um, there's a lady there on this public forum on PS. Is it PS Anthony? PS somebody? Um, yeah, PS Morgan. Sorry, PS Morgan. Right, denying it all. She's part of the organization called the United Nations, and she's on there being interviewed about it, and then she's denying it. It's almost like she's like a Holocaust denier, and I found that to be not only, it angered me because it was violence that we saw happen, right? Because these guys on their GoPros showing them what they were doing to all these victims, kidnapping them, carrying away dead bodies that they had shot, that violated, that mutilated, right? Because they went in and killed children. Because guess what? You destroy the future. Here's the thing that, like, I don't know how Westerners, and they can never get it into their mind, like especially liberals, like on the left, not even the far left, the left, right? And even the further a bit along, you have the crazies who go out and protest for Palestine and for terrorists like Hamas and Hezbollah, who go out there and like protest all about that, but they they can't get in their heads, right? That um, that there are that Israel's constantly under attack. Like, how do you not understand that there are missiles being thrown into your country all day long, every day, throughout the day, without warning? You could go about, hey, having a picnic with your family, and there's missiles dropping, there's drones dropping bombs, and not feel a bit of sympathy to people like that. To place yourself in the mind of a child, of a younger kid, being traumatized as mum and dad's going, hide, 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 let's run away. Come on, come on, come on, kids, we got to go. And to not think about what mental trauma, lifelong mental trauma, that can have on you, right? And not only that, then to witness your mum, your dad, your sister being abused, murdered, and so on, and violated, right? This lack of empathy in the left has made me so despise them, their mindset, to the thing where I'm like, I will, I won't even call myself a liberal anymore. I'll just be like, I'm a centrist. I'm a humanist, right? I won't even think about any sides. I'll just be a humanist, right? Um, and it's gotten to a point where, like, I'm just like, it could drive someone crazy, like, if you go too far into it, because you want people to have a bit of empathy, because otherwise you're psychotic, right? You become mentally unbalanced. Your morals, or whatever they are, your center of guidance in your life becomes unbalanced, and you become a very violent, aggressive person, or you become a very pro-violence, aggressive person. Oh, maybe I'm not making myself sense. Sounds Maybe I'm not making much sense, but hopefully you can understand through my waffling. Um, I just feel like we all need to have a bit of empathy as human beings living in a culture, which is a lot of different cultures in it. Like, there's no country on earth right now that doesn't have other races on it in it. Tourists, even if you're just tourist, or if you're just visiting, or if you just you know having like a 6-month visa or like deciding to live there. You're not the only race there. So you got to have a bit of empathy, you know, and to not think about being a child, being a young person, being a 16 or 17 or girl, 13 or what boy, whatever, in that situation, and then watch the crazies in the media protesting for the very people that are dropping bombs on your head all day long. Uh, and while you're and not only that, while you listen to music at a concert, dancing, having fun, right? And they want to, all they think about is just taking that away from you, right? And then, like as I mentioned about why they destroy children's lives, and pe- this is why people attack children, like abuse children, is because they have no empathy, they have no care, they destroy their lives for life, their entire lives. Like I mentioned last time, about the abuse and care. I did a stream last time about like abuse and care. The Royal Commission took about, I think it was like 6 years into it. About 200 over 200,000 people had been abused over a 70-year period. Sorry, it would have been like less than that, but like around over 50 years. So it was from like 1950 to 2020, so about 70-year period. So it's pretty crazy, and that was in New Zealand. So yeah, okay. Let's have a quick look at this, and then we'll go on a couple of these items. But remember, like I said, this is UN findings after the fact. The perpetrators, the abusers, the violators, the monsters had already shown the world, and their little buddies all around in their little communities, in their little discords, in their private, underground viewing, sessions, all the horrible things they were doing, things we didn't even get to see, by the way, right? Things, that they save probably, because I know monsters do this, right? They'll take evidence of their abuse of people, and they'll have it, and they'll show it in the dark web type thing, or they'll record it and pass it on, right? And they'll share it amongst themselves, like like pedos do, right? They do the same thing, and that's how people find them. As the FBI, Interpol, or the police find them, is because they have evidence, because they want to relive that moment over again. All right, let's get to this one on Israel first, and then we'll move on to the grooming gang.
Good evening. I want to start tonight with the horrific assault allegedly perpetrated during the October the 7th.
See, the fact they keep saying fucking allegedly, we saw them do it, right? I hate the fact that these people like allegedly, right? Because they don't want to be seen as siding. This is the imbalance in Western media, is that this is, by the way, this is the UK one, right? Not the Australian one. This is a UK or the New Zealand one, because everyone have their, Sky is international. I'm not sure if it's in the UK, US, but in the colonies we have it, right? Well, we have our own, Sky News own people locally who report, and then Aussie has their own, and then UK seems to be the one that's very left, right?
The attacks on Israel. And one account in particular, that of reservist Shari Mendez. She's not a forensic scientist, not an expert, but a volunteer whose primary job was to identify and prepare female soldiers for burial. She describes seeing bloodied underwear, faces repeatedly shot. She says she tried.
You guys know this is all adult material today, right? Like for mature people, so
tried to give these women the respect they didn't receive when they were murdered. The Israeli government say they're preparing to make make their evidence public. And the United Nations has urged any remaining living victims to come forward. But too much time has passed with no international investigation. And that's been the same for so many other conflicts in Ukraine, in Ethiopia, in Sudan. Tonight,
So here's the thing, right? They always do whataboutisms. You know, at the moment, like last week, you heard the International Criminal Court wants to go over Netanyahu about supposed genocide in Gaza. Yet the Gazan people are going the only people that abuse this Hamas, and we went through those videos last time, right? And as we saw, like they were robbing the aid food while Amnesty International is asking us for money, right? Asking me for money to send to Gaza because they need money. While when you look into Hezbollah and Hamas tunnels, there's bundles of money and weapons and food, right? So they all, when it comes to Israel, I've noticed this, right? And for a while, is that there's like but I haven't spoken up about it until the fucking, you know, like I mentioned the other week when we're covering this Israel, about how the guy from Amnesty International really riled me up to be actually vocal about this, because you know, he was so anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, that I was like, I saw with my own eyes. I've done my research. And you're telling me, oh, Israel's bad. Yeah, did the Israel attack? It's after the fact they actually started because they wanted their people back. But no. And here's the thing, like, can you imagine a member of your family being done to you? Wouldn't you want to do everything to get them back? This is why I hate the left and the mass media, right? Like mainstream, freaking Western media are so corrupt, man.
we'll discuss why there's been no concerted global effort to seek justice for those raped and assaulted during war. But let's begin with Shari's memories of those days in October, and a warning that she does describe in detail how women's bodies were mutilated.
Our unit was activated immediately on October 7th. My shift came in on Sunday morning, October 8th. I got to the base and it was unimaginable in two ways. It was unimaginable in terms of scale, the numbers. There were body bags everywhere. They were lining the corridors. They were lining up in the refrigerated trucks coming into this Shura Army base where our unit is focused. Every single victim of the October 7th massacre was brought to this base. So it was unimaginable in the sense that this is a large facility and the halls were lined to the ceiling with body bags. The smell was unimaginable. I can't tell you enough the shock and despair that struck all of us.
And what were you seeing? You know, as you say, there were body bags, the horror of it. In terms of the women that were coming through, some of the women that were coming in, what were you seeing?
They were shot so many times in the head that in many cases it was like there was a purposeful obliteration of women's faces. We also,
and here's the thing, right? As we all know, Muslim women in their own culture are abused, violated, whipped, tortured, stoned, run over, burnt alive. But that's in their own culture. So now think about them doing this to other people, right? Just a point of reference, right? If these evil people can do it to their own like that in the name of religion, and not even in the name of religion, just because they're evil fuckers. Think of how much they hate anybody else, especially females, because they have no regard for females. I mean, like, I put up that link earlier, right? I think I might have missed that about the lady ringing in about what was done to her by her Muslim husband that she met at 17, at high school, married at 21, and the moment she graduated to be a certified nurse, now you can't work. You must wear a hijab. You must do this. You must do that. The utter control that they have over females' lives. And people want to tell Westerners, oh, Christianity is bad, or Western life is bad. Western women are going through hell. Especially those on the left, right? Those who are shaving their heads right now and wearing blue beads. They want to tell you that, hey, Western life is so terrible. Living in the West is horrible. Try living in the Middle East. Try living in India to a point, even though India is very, very secular to a point where you can, But we'll look at that later, another time.
Also saw women came in not very dressed, and they had often very bloody clothing, if they had any clothing, they had very bloody underwear. Women were shot. Our team has seen women shot in the crotch, in the genitals. Women were shot in the breast.
You saw this.
Our team saw this, yes. Women had legs cut off. There was a lot of, it seemed like there was a systematic genital mutilation of women in the women we saw.
So basically, they're using sexual, but punishing women for being able to produce children, right? To their lust. This is what happens to why males. Excuse me, my legs are a bit uncomfortable. Males who live in a culture that despises females, that are hidden from them under black cloth or what have you, or their beauty is kept away from them, hidden away. Their lust, depravity turns into hate, and disgust, and and then it's like they want to ruin beauty. And we can see that via the cloth they put up, the black, gray, blue cloths they, put up, tablecloths they put over that, or curtains, whatever have you, sheets of, material over their woman, right? That is the final end of Islam, right? It's to totally cover the beauty of females, right? Because that's what their book says so, right? Basically.
Sometimes we were told to run, and part of what we did was accompany these women. That was part of our purpose, and we never wanted to leave them alone. But they told everyone who was working on the base, you have to get out. There's a danger. And what was it? People were coming in booby-trapped, and sappers had to come in and clear the situation so that we could go back.
Imagine that, right? Not only are their bodies violated, their genitals mutilated, their heads, shot to pieces, body parts cut off, arms, legs, right? But they've been booby-trapped with bombs, right? Incendiaries, right? As well. These monsters used sex as sexual violence as a weapon of war to destroy more lives, even after the dead. And I tell you this, man, I am 100,000,000% sure there are videos of all this, of what they did on the dark web somewhere, or amongst their own little brotherhoods and cults, amongst their death cult leaders passing around this material to jerk off to, because these people get off on violence and violation and depravity, right? Because why else would you video your horrific work? Because you want to be championed on by your mates over in Britain, over in the US, over in Somalia, over in North Africa, in the Middle East, right? In Europe, in Canada, in New Zealand, maybe, in Australia, wherever they are. Somebody's there sharing in the darkness of the night or whatever, in the darkened halls, right? Hey, bro, Mo sent me this. I have sent me this. Check this out. Oh, you got one too? Yeah. Okay. Oh, here's this one from Mo. Or Aziz. Aziz sent me this one.
Again,
I mean, the things you're describing, totally horrific. You've said you're not a forensics expert, but you were witnessing some of these horrors against the women that were coming in. What were the forensics experts saying? Were they asking you to collect the sort of the clothing and some of the body parts? I mean, what was the kind of exchange of information that you had with the forensics team?
so the purpose of our unit was actually more a Jewish religious role. We were in the examination room because we were there to accompany these women. We often opened body bags. We washed jewelry of blood to give back to families of the deceased.
It's basically like performing the last rites if you're a priest, right? It's like when a member of Hindu culture, right? The women go and wash down the bodies, but in our culture, they're not allowed to be at the funeral, at the actual cemetery during the cremation period, because Hinduism, in Indian culture, you get cremated, open cremation, right? I've been to a couple of them. All the men stand around, the main family members, they go in and they do this whole ritual around it. If you've ever witnessed this, it's crazy. And the reason the females aren't allowed, because they are very emotional, and in the past, those used to throw themselves on the pyre as their husbands or their family members were getting cremated. An open cremation, that's been like there's a pyre, which basically is like all these logs being set on fire, and the body's there on top, right? And you basically watch until the end of it with your uncles, as a child or as an adult, as a teenager, with your rallies, and entire village who's been invited, who's come to pay respect, and like around 100 people, 100 males of all ages are there. Usually it's last time was my grandma. It was a very hot day, and I it was about 2014, and I had because I'm a Westerner, right? I had a black hat on, like my fedora, right? My black fedora on. I had my long black sleeve shirt on, and my black pants on, and black shoes, because I'm in mourning. Everybody else was wearing like white shirts, short sleeve white shirts, and they were like fine, and I'm like roasting because it's a freaking hot day, like 40 degrees, right? Celsius. So I don't know what that is. That like 30 degrees Fahrenheit or something, like 18 degrees. I'm not sure, but it was very hot, and I'm getting like sunburnt, that kind of hot. But yeah, so we all everybody prepares their loved ones for burial or for cremation, is what I'm trying to get at. And so she's doing that part there.
Deceased. I remember one woman had her arm and her leg were broken in so many places that it was like handling marbles or sand. And at a certain point, we said, we'll just put a white sheet on top of her. In the examination room, we did not do any, there were experts in that room. We were there to accompany the people. But then we moved to a room, a separate room that was more for us. It was a burial, preparation for burial room. And in there, it was just our team, women, dealing with women. And it was a different atmosphere. It was less rushed. We are not forensics experts, but we felt very strongly that we wanted to give these poor women some respect that they didn't get when they were horribly murdered and mutilated and disfigured. And it was our job to honor them. They could have been our daughters. They were the same ages as our children. And we figured we probably would be the last people to ever see them. So just for a moment, we loved them.
Imagine seeing that. And this is why I say the left lacks empathy and care for human life. Imagine seeing that over and over again. They say, like, I mean, and I'm trying, like, the minimalist point, right, of this. It's like they say when police officers go and see a car crash, they're like traumatized. They have to go through counseling, right? Or even victims in a car crash, because of what they see, they become traumatized. And that's just a one or twice, in their lifetime. If you're lucky, it's only once or twice, right? But here's a lady, and not only her, and her whole, the group of ladies who are going in to prepare the bodies so that the bodies are actually are ready for the family members to come and identify them and take them away home to prepare for burial, to go through mourning, through the grieving period, and then seeing it over and over again. The constant rising of the amount of depravity done to their bodies, the mutilation carried out and the abuse carried out on these females. And to not feel a sense of empathy, or a care or concern, but go in the streets around the world and protest for the same, and in favor of the same people who did that, horrifies me and makes me see that these people have no empathy, because ideology of the noble savage in their brain cell, that these brown people cannot do any wrong, has infused them into their corrupted brain so much, because education or their echo chambers have told them they're Jews. It doesn't matter what these brown people do to them. They deserve it, because look at what we did to them. Look at what our country did to them. The crazy thing is, without anybody doing anything to them, they do it to themselves. Pakistan, we're going to be looking at Bangladesh later, in coming days. Pakistan this week alone had the most the craziest, like, seriously, just this week amongst themselves, right? We're killing each other. We're like burning buildings, right? Protesting, rioting. And then in a couple of days, we'll look at Bangladesh. Around 2,000 people died in that. And that was in August. And it's still going, right? where they're trying to wipe out anyone that's not a Muslim in their country, that they're trying to make sure it's nobody that is not a Muslim can live there anymore. Churches are being broken into, are being burnt down. Places of science and education that even has a name of like Christian men or people, who opened it up for, are being broken down, smashed down, burnt, right? And lies being told about uh, Christians and Hindus, like, oh, they said something bad about the Quran. No lunatic would in a Muslim country say anything bad about the Quran because they know that's instant death. But they say about them so they can arrest them, abuse them, and create riots because these people are fucking mental.
There's a lot of conversation around rape, sexual violence being used as a weapon of war. And as you say, you're not an expert, you were dealing with the bodies. But I guess this is also now part of the conversation around this as Israel collects the information and the data and the evidence for this. There's also people questioning, the kind of evidence. I mean, what would your response be?
I'm going to let her speak on that.
I would have to say that this is still very early. Israel is still, rockets are still flying at us. We're still in very early stages of an investigation. We're still in shock. We're still in a deep state of trauma. 1,200 people were murdered. We still have 130.
Who's that? 1,200 were murdered. And like hundreds were like, taken hostages, right? As well. To keep the trauma going. To keep traumatizing them. That's the whole reason you take hostages. It's to remind you, we did this, and we're going to carry on, and we're going to stretch it out, because not only did you have to deal with all this horrific thing we did, we recorded it so we could jerk off to it later in our little circle, right? Jerk, because I'm sure they are. Because if you're able to do this, what else are you not at? Or what are you going to stop at, right, at this point? But I'm going to leave that there. It's, I don't want to get too worked up. But here's I realized I hadn't put up Lubna's Candid with Lubna, talking about the British woman, stuff. Her channel talks about Islam and migrants because she's a Pakistani woman, and she has open invite so people can come on her live stream and just talk and stuff. So this is the one from today. Let me get to the live stream. So this is, and I'm just gonna go there as well. Like, give me 1 second. And so this is so a lot more people from around the world came on, right? Not just Britain, but people from Netherlands spoke, and sort of like talking about what's been happening in their with Islam and their communities and stuff. So this is the title of it, right? Convert to Islam shares a horrific experience marrying Pakistani, right? She's if I remember right, she was Scottish, right? The problem is, and this is where we're going to lead into, is that when you talk about Middle Eastern man or East Asian man, right? Sri Lankan, Indian, North African, all that, right? And talk about abuse, the left wants to paint you as a racist. And because how dare you? How dare you talk about these people as like monsters while they beat you? Right? How dare you as they pour acid in your face or throw oil at you or hit you over with a frying pan or throw knives at you in front of your children? How dare you call them abusers and go to police and talk about domestic abuse? You white woman, you don't matter. So now, right, please go watch that. And she was 17 when she met the dude at school, 21, married very young, qualified nurse. So she's not like, she was in love, right? And like, as I mentioned early on, other males came on and talked about their experiences in their communities and also the chat, right? I could only handle like half an hour because I was like, if that was, but here's the thing. It's nothing new, man. It's happening right now, right? Because Western women are just passports to these people, permanent residence, citizenship papers. That's all it is. Now, let's get to the topic of the day, and that is Britain's shame. And if you're joining me, thank you. Appreciate it. Please jump across to YouTube. Come and hang out in the chat. Let's chat. Now, let me also know if I'm coming across as a bit muddled, because the other day, it's taking a while to come on. The other day when I was like streaming it later on, I watched it, I was like all washed out on when I was on it. And it just felt weird. So what's going on? Screen. Refresh. Here we go. So there is a documentary made about this, and it is it's on IMDb, and it's this is a title of it as well. It's Grooming Gangs, Britain's Shame. Let me pop over and actually get a little short clip first before we go into the bigger one. Here we go. And this is like is it the one? Apologies, guys. I'm just trying to make sure. So the one, yeah, right. I think I had the right one. I thought I had the wrong one. So this is the title of the.
I'm meeting with the only whistleblower to resign from the police over the Grooming Gangs cover-up.
Well, in 2004, I was approached and asked to join, to go on board with a job that became known as Operation Augusta. And this was we had a little girl who had died in Rochdale, who had been groomed, sexually abused. I was asked to go on an investigation to look at whether we had a problem in Greater Manchester with young white children being groomed and sexually abused by gangs of Pakistani men.
Greater Manchester did have a problem with grooming gangs. The little girl who died, Victoria Agoglia, was 15 years old when in
very vulnerable children who were mainly they were all living in care, who were being systematically groomed and raped by gangs of Pakistani men.
Over 18 months, Maggie and her team compiled a compelling case against the gangs they knew were operating in Rochdale. But she had to take a break from the investigation when her husband fell terminally ill.
And at that point, we had 100 paedophiles on a database that we knew.
Did you hear that? 100. 100 pedos. One hundred of these monsters. And they were all Pakistani. Remember how I just said there was like the Pakistani, the woman who just married, this, and the links there, right? It's that one there, I think. You can go watch that later. Yeah, her account is horrific, but here's 100 pedos, Pakistani pedos, right? Specifically, people that kind of has my skin color, right? And it makes my skin crawl. It makes me ashamed, which is why, like, as I mentioned, like when I came across, I started talking about this, but about 2018, 2019, when I learned about it, I straight away was like, more people need to know this is happening there. And these are the people, East Asian, Indian, Sri Lankan, Middle Eastern, Pakistanis are carrying out abuse and grooming children for abuse and abusing them. And she just said they found 100 of them. As we'll learn, there's about 42 of them were arrested, given about 500 years of things. But what happened to the other ones? Right, 58 others or 56 others. Was it 42? Let me. We'll get to. Excuse me. We'll get to the number. Numbers soon. It's just crazy. All right, let's carry on with Maggie.
Knew were raping children. We had about 3 dozen children that we had identified as being abused.
36 or more.
So that job was a full singing and dancing major investigation. My job was done and I went off.
That's 36 children's life ruined. See, one thing people don't understand about abuse or sexual violence with children is it's not, and I know we're just talking about kids now, all right? Not talking about adults here. So that abuse sticks with them forever. I mentioned last time, like a guy was talking about, he'd been abused as a child, violated, raped as a child, and yet 54 years later, at 54 years, whatever of age, he was still living that trauma. Mental, emotional, physical trauma from that moment. That's like his whole fucking life. So when I say 36 children, their lives are ruined, I actually mean that, right? That their mental trauma, their emotional, their physical body memory, because as we know, your body, muscle memory, right? It stays with you, so you're experiencing that. So it's like that's why people, trigger warnings, like for certain things, you need them. And, but you can't hide away from it all the time. So people, put up trigger warnings to try to help people not do, but the reason for that is because things your memory recalls it at whatever weird times, and it's there, right? Almost you're reliving that experience, and you could be like having picnic, you could be like at the beach, right? You could be walking your dog, walking with your family or friends, playing with your child, right? Or you're, hanging out with your family members, niece and nephews, whatever, and your brain, boom, some's a word they say, or something's in the background, something, or the sound, or smell, triggers it again, and you're reliving it again.
Work, content and happy to know that those men were going to be prosecuted.
But when Maggie returned from compassionate leave after the death of her husband, she found that Operation Augusta had been closed down. None of the abusers were convicted.
100 people, right? 100 pedos, Pakistani pedos. All the hard work she had done. No one was arrested, was investigated, was brought to trial to seek justice for the victims. Why do you think a lot of children don't talk about it? Why do you think a lot of women, males, don't talk about what they've gone through, what they've experienced when it comes to those things, to bring people to justice? Because, why didn't you talk about it when you were there? Because a lot of times nothing gets done. Because people won't believe you. Because, but it's like you're not broken down about it, or your life. Why, you're living a life like nothing's happened to you. I've met enough victims of abuse to know, like I mentioned last time, the coping and mental gymnastics people do to get through the day, get through the week, get through the month, get through the year, so that they don't end up taking their own lives. Or worse yet, abusing other people because they think that's normal, or that's how you show love or care.
I couldn't get any answers. All I was told was that there was insufficient evidence to prosecute. And I knew, because I had been working on that job from day one, I knew we had the evidence.
The last information placed on the police database for the operation was on the 6th of July 2005, one day before the 7/7 terror attacks in London.
There was a gold level meeting within GMP, and that means the most senior officers in GMP, that they had a meeting and that the decision was made at that meeting that they were not prepared to put resources into that investigation.
Was it shut down because revealing the grooming gangs just after an Islamist attack was considered too incendiary? We'll never know, because those minutes were conveniently lost. Years later, Maggie was brought back in for a new operation to tackle the gangs.
I was reapproached in 2010 and asked to go on board a case in Rochdale, which became known as Operation Span.
Maggie was asked to join the team to gain the trust of a young girl called Ruby, who, aged just 12, had been raped by known paedophile Adil Khan.
When she was just 13, she had been made pregnant by that man. And at the time, which had been 2 years previous to that, had seized a fetus.
But despite having the frozen fetus and the DNA needed to prove the identity of Ruby's rapist, Adil Khan was not charged with rape.
Ruby, we had a fetus. We knew who had made her pregnant, but the authorities failed to protect her. The schools knew, social services knew, the police knew. And even though we all knew, even though we had DNA, even though we knew who was responsible, that man was still never charged with rape.
And this is that girl. I mean, there's a girl's story, of course, This is from February 2022, 2024, this year, right? just realized I was like watching that and then trying to take a drink, and I forgot what I was doing for a second, dipped the drink all over myself, and just realized got some on my beard. Apologies. So it's written by Victoria Derbyshire, Sean Clare, and Holly Cole. Just let that sink in. This number and that number. And this is what Maggie was just talking about. A victim of a Rochdale grooming gang has said she was raped more than 100 times from the age of 12 and felt let down by police. Ruby has told BBC Newsnight police took her aborted fetus away for DNA testing without telling her. And of course, this is Maggie here. We just saw that little clip. Former Detective Maggie Oliver said that years after Ruby's abuse, child sexual exploitation was still happening across the country. Remember, this is from this year. So since then, it continues. Greater Manchester Police GMP said it was deeply sorry for family victims. Oh yeah, you know, they always say they're sorry, but they don't do nothing, which is why nobody comes forward. Well, a lot of people don't come forward. Poor service in Rochdale in the early 2000s was a profound regret, the force said. Yeah, what? Didn't Maggie just say it's happening still now? 20 years later? So, what's the excuse for that? Oh, it's the darkies that are doing it. That's why we can't stop them, because we'll be called racist. We can't go against the Muslims, because they'll riot in the street if we go after one of them. They'll start burning things down. They'll hurt our officers because they don't care about our culture, our people, our system of law, because they come from a barbaric society. Then why are they there? Oh, because we let them come in, because we thought, we on the left thought that we'll have policies inviting everybody in and that would change. Just the way women think that they would change a violent man, an abusive man. We thought that these people, these savages would be, who are taught from childhood by other men to treat women like shit, would change the moment they stepped into our white nation, into our Greater Britain, Manchester area, right? That the moment they got off that plane and touched our beautiful dirt and our Western freedom, they'll go, oh, I'm going to leave my terrible life behind and my terrible life, my terrible thinking process where women don't mean shit and children are just there to extend our religion, right? So that we can basically have more of our more Muslims in the world. That will change. That will instantly change their mental disgusting behavior. That they will basically go from being aggressive, violent towards females and children to gentle, Western thinking, freedom loving human beings. The moment they touch our dirt, right? Put their feet on British ground, or European ground, or American ground, or Canadian ground, or Australian or New Zealand or Pacific Island. The moment they get into that plane and fly or boat or whatever, right? Legally or illegally, that they will instantly in their mental state decide, I will leave all my cultural behaviors behind that are very anti-Western values. We will suddenly become little innocent children. We'll behave like civilized human beings. Nah. Like I said, it's like a female knowingly get into a relationship with a domestic abuser, right? Oh, I can change him. And this is the policies of that Europe and Western liberals, leftists in government and power and politicians and positions of power have put into play for decades, to where just to say this is wrong, that you should not do this, you get arrested and you get jailed. Right. So here we go. Poor service in Rochdale in the 2000s was a profound regret. Like we just read that, right? But like as I mentioned, Maggie said right here, still happening across the country. 2024, 20 years later, 24. Adding that, while child sexual exploitation had not been eradicated, officers would continue to police without fear or favor. Bullshit. Southport. Only this year, I think it was, or was it last year? 3 young girls. Let me bring it up, right? So, Southport. So you know what we're doing. Okay. All right. So this is hopefully I've got the right one here. Just want to make sure. And then we'll go back to the other one, news thing. So this is the knife attack on 3 young girls. This has got 2 dead right at that time. It's like 3 months ago. Another child was, there was 3, ended up being 3. Now I'm going to make sure. Hopefully this is the right one. This is a Southport knife. Yeah.
It's an act of violence that shattered the peace of the summer holidays in a seaside town, with the facts still emerging. What we do know is this attack on children and the adults who tried to protect them took place on Hart Street in Southport, at this yoga and dance space called Hart Space, located in a largely residential street less than a 5-minute drive from the center of town, a place of safety and fun for children and parents. This morning, it was hosting a Taylor Swift-themed dance and yoga class for 6 to 11-year-olds at the time the attack took place. The class began at 10 a.m. and was due to last 2 hours. It's not known precisely when the attack began, but witnesses described hearing the sound of screams and seeing children running from the venue. At 11:47 a.m., the Northwest Ambulance Service responded to a call at Hart Street with reports of multiple stabbings. Soon after that, parents due to pick up their children arrived to face a scene they would have feared more than any other. In these images, taken from the house in front of the Hart Space, paramedics desperately worked to save the lives of children and 2 adults on the street. A 17-year-old boy was arrested at the scene on suspicion of murder and attempted murder, and is being interviewed by police. Police say he is originally born in Cardiff, living in Banks in Lancashire. A large cordon has been in place for much of the day, covering most of the surrounding area, as police investigate. At this cordon, we've not just seen a police presence, but people from the community impacted by this attack. Some are laying flowers, others are asking questions about how this could have happened here. Emergency services have established a local command center at a nearby high school.
It was a Muslim, a Islamist who was going to carry out, chemical attacks as well, they found out. And the media and the politicians basically twisted and told lies and just, to protect the Muslim darky, right? Which infuriated the community, saying, tell us the truth. And they were like, no, it's. So 3 young girls lost their lives, and others were, knife wounds, man. I've got I've got like a huge scar across here. It stays with you forever. It doesn't go away. And let's get back to the other one. But there's so much crime being created by the Islamic community and East Asian community, to where it's like a pattern of behavior. You can recognize that it's this majority group is doing it. So, okay, so let's go. Right, they'll continue to think about fear, and that's what the reason I showed you that was because the police only this year were like favoring the Muslim community, Islamic community, and protecting the guy who was, because they fear that there'll be a retaliation. All the locals wanted was tell us the truth, who did it, why it was done, and so on, and bring him to justice. So Ruby said she wanted to help other abused children who need to feel listened to and heard when they report the crime to police. She has called for counseling to be offered after police interviews. In January this year, a review revealed girls in Rochdale were left at the mercy of pedos for years because of failings by senior police and council bosses. The decade. Look at that, 9 years. Is it not? No. Yeah, 9 years. Apologies. Like I was like, numbers always play on my brain. Too many head injuries, as I've mentioned before. Right? So girls, when they say girls, they mean under 18, minors, high schoolers, primary schoolers, and maybe some younger. Left to the mercy of pedos and grooming gangs. From 2000, and here's the thing, just because it says 2004 doesn't mean it started in 2004. The fact is, it's probably happened earlier, but they started their case in 2004 when they recognized shit was happening, right? So it focused on 111 cases in the town and this is Rochdale, right? Sorry, not Rochdale. Rochdale. And the greater Manchester, right? Manchester's a huge city. My dad's from Manchester. My stepfather, right? He's from Manchester. That's where they filmed Coronation Street. My dad was born and lived two streets over from Coronation Street. If you're from the colonies, right, the British colonies, you know what I'm talking about when I say Coronation Street. It's the longest running soap opera, I think, of its kind since like the 60s or 50s. And in our house, it was on all the time, like every week. I think they did it twice a week or something. They went like almost 3 or 4 times, and then I don't know. I haven't seen it for years, but it was like once it was on, we were out of the room. If we're bored, we'd sit down. But once it was on, we were out reading, listening to music, playing outside, whatever. If it was summer, because like it's around about 7 o'clock in the evening was on. All right. So the investigation focused on 111 cases in the town. This is a single town. It's 111 kids in a single town. It's a fucking haven for pedos and monsters in a single town. Just let that melt into your brain. You know, it's like all the pedos converged and said, hey, these British police are doing nothing to us. Come. Do you guys remember the horror movie? What the hell was it called? It was about vampires in Alaska. Who oh man. It was based on a comic book. Let me just look it up. And it reminds me of that, right? It's just like all these evil vampires converge on this town for 40 days and 40 nights. I think that's what it was like. 40 days of 40 days? Hold on, let me look it up. And 40 days of 40 days a night. Dang it. Vampire movie comic set in Alaska. 30 days a night. Right? This one here is a comic it's based on a comic book. I have it here somewhere. I have the DVD. So this is what it is. And it's basically makes me feel like 40 days of no sunlight in Alaska, right? It's like the whole thing. And so 30 days of night, sorry. So 30 days after an Alaskan town is plunged into darkness for a month, it is attacked by a bloodthirsty gang. Rape gang, grooming gang of vampires, written by Steve Niles, horror comic writer. It's a great horror movie and a great comic book. I love the artwork. The artist is Ben Templesmith from Australia. I love his style. I have a few of his works. See if I've got it here. I think it's I've got it's doubled up my DVD, so there's like one set in front and then there's another row in the back, so it's probably in the back row. But I have the box set. So if you've ever seen 30 Days of Night, I feel like this is what happened. These pedos decided that the barbecue's set, guys. Rochdale police aren't doing anything, right? They might as well not even have a police force to police pedos, to help children, to save them from abuse for a decade. So let's all converge on this town. So the word went out, probably. Text message. Hey, Aziz. Hey, Mo. Hey, hey, bro. Hey, cuz. None of these police are touching me when I'm touching girls. So how about you and the boys come down so we can carry on touching girls? Hey, cuz. So 96 of them converged on the town. Whether from there, I'm just, hyperboling, right? Or whether they came in, right, after learning that nobody was going to touch them. That basically there was no law when it came to brownies abusing children, brownies from Middle East and from East Asia. Because if you were of a certain religion, you were untouchable if you touched kids, because your religion has touching of children as normal. Remember? Mo married 9-year-old, but he got with the, he married her when she was 6, and he waited 3 years before consummating. So it focused, 111 cases in the town of Rochdale from 2004 to 2013, and set out a series of failed investigations by the Greater Manchester Police. You might as well even be a police. I would, if I was the mayor, if I was whatever in council, I'd be like, you're all fired. I would. That's how severe they should have dealt with these people. Anyone who was a police officer and had a report across the desk about abuse of children, and they did nothing, lose your job, lose your pension. That's it. That's what else are you going to do? Failure of duty. You only had one job: protect the innocent and help the victims, provide support, care, counseling, get the cases to court. 9 years, 10 years, sorry, you're like 2005, 4, 5, so on. They identified 96 men still deemed a potential risk to children. Still, after the fact. Rochdale Council said it was determined to ensure these terrible failures do not happen again. Did I not read that earlier where Maggie, the officer who investigated, whose reports were ignored because a Muslim terrorist carried out an attack on the 7/7 of that year. So they had to hush this, get it out of the way, because we can't rock more people up. The citizens must not know there are monsters violating their children. The politics people play in trying to protect the darkies and Islamists is so fucking crazy in Britain and now in Europe. Like I said, it makes me disgusted to be of that ethnic race, right? Using race as a shield to continue violating children and ruining their entire lives. As I mentioned earlier, abuse stays with children for the rest of their life. And we know it does with adults as well, but we're talking about children here. So let's not go about whataboutism. I'm just arguing with myself, but I've watched this happen many times on chats, right? When people talk about one thing and somebody else starts going, what about that? So I'm trying to stick with kids here. Rochdale Council said it was determined to ensure that these terrible failures don't happen again. As I said, Maggie said it's continuing in 2024. Now, there is a warning, and like I've already done this, right? Hey, Finbar. Hey, bud. How you? Sorry, I just turned on, as you can see, I'm like on the other screen, but yeah. Yep. Yo, Aru, the police in UK are fucking useless. Now they've said that I'll probably get thrown in prison for exactly. And he's not lying. People are getting arrested for memes in UK. And not only if you're under 16, which I'm kind of okay with to a certain extent. If you're in Australia right now, there's a law that says that you can't be on social media. And that is, of course, in a way trying to protect the mental health of children, because we know that there's so much effing bullying online. We've seen it over the last decade, and I can understand that. In a way, I'm at a 50-50 on that, because I'm like, yeah, we got to protect the kids because of the terrible things that happen to them in social media. So I'm going to go back and not hear things, because for my own mental health, because I have to live in this head. So if I'm reading too much, or if I'm seeing something horrific, it will stick with me, because that's the kind of person I am. I can't remember comic book stories because the head, that part of my brain has been damaged too much, but I can remember horrific things, and so and recall horrific things easily, and so I try to save myself from that. So that's, if you're like that, we're going to be reading some terrible stuff, but the truth needs to be told. So, warning: some readers might find the following report distressing. Remember, Ruby is who we're talking about here, and Ruby I'm sorry, guys. My head just, yeah. Ruby, whose real name cannot be revealed for legal reasons, said the abuse started after some older men invited her and her friends to a takeaway and a flat for food. That's how it starts. One of the things that children are susceptible to monsters is kindness, especially if those kids haven't been taught to stay the hell away from strangers. That whole stranger danger, somewhere down the line, people stop telling their kids that. And the worst thing is when you're in solo parenting situation, or if there's trauma, like violence or verbal abuse in the home. So you are looking for someone to be kind towards you. So you'll hear a lot of stories about, oh, you offered me sweets, or you bought me this, and yeah, he was so kind to me, and I didn't think that I was being groomed. And so years later, you try to go, but was I really? Did he really hurt me? Is that what he was doing to me? Because you're trying to work out what, but he was so kind. It's like females who are getting, abused, being gaslit, domestic violence, even males. So I'm not going to try to just say only females get domestic violence to them, right? There's a lot of times when people go, "Oh, look at how tough and strong this guy is. How could he get abused by and beaten up uh, by his partner?" Well, because sometimes as a male, you don't want to lash out because she's of the weakest, so-called, because ingrained into your head that she's of the weakest sex. So you shouldn't defend yourself. Let it happen. So people try to out of shame to never talk about being abused in a relationship as a male. Right. Yes. So she said, said the abuse started after some older man invited her. And here's the thing, some, not one, sorry, not one, some, right? Some older man invited her and her friends. Not one, but some. And you kind of think, well, and here's the thing, you kind of think, oh, well, there's, well, it's not just one person. So, I mean, it can't be that bad. It's like there's a whole bunch of them. So, and there's a bunch of us. Remember, she's a young girl, 12 years old, or maybe younger. Like, so, hold on, let me make a correction here. From the age of 12, yeah. So she was 12 years old at this point, and so she's not around older. I mean, maybe her, she's hanging around with other people her age. Like I know when I was 12, I was hanging around with a bit, a little younger crowd and a little older crowd, but I was in there. Around about 14, 15, I was hanging around with 20-year-olds, right? And 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds. Right. So my brain's always like, until later on, I was hanging out with people my own age when I started working and moved to a city, and everybody was around 18, 19, 20. And I was about 18, 17, 18, 19, right? 20. But that's the other thing, right? So you basically, if you're hanging out with older people, you mature very quickly as well. But the other side is that, like, kids are always looking for kindness if they don't have it in their homes. And this is the terrible thing about violence, verbal abuse, bullying in homes, is that the love that should be provided for children there, when it's not provided for children there, they seek it elsewhere, and it's the easy prey for predators. Right? You've seen like the documentaries about the wild, pack of like gazelles, deer, or whatever they call them in Africa, right? And the one at the back, the weak one, is the one that's like the lions or cheetahs or whatever, hyenas, kind of like chase away, separate away from the pack. That's what predators do, right? Let's find the weakest one, the kid who has like abuse in the family, a kid who's, why the F will the 12-year-old and her friends be hanging out with adult males? Because there's something wrong at home. Someone's never told them. Mom or dad hasn't told them, stranger danger. Don't talk to strangers. Doesn't matter if you're with your friends or not. Be the one to go, okay, guys, we got to go now. And why the hell are these men hanging out with children? Well, there's only one reason. I mentioned before as an adult, right? Like, because I, my whole life's basically been working with youth to a certain extent, right? Like I used to be a youth worker, and so there's always, young people around. Like I was like, when I was working for Sally Army for about a year there on contract as a part-timer, 11-year-old and 11 and 10-year-olds, I'll be looking after them. But I also had an adult female, same age me, there as well, because we wanted to make sure that there are two people with the kids at all times, for our protection and for the kids' protection. Because, kids can also make up lies or fantasies, right? Whatever. And so you want to make sure that your back, you had, someone was there protecting your back. And like in case, something happened, you knew that there was a witness there, that if nothing, and so on. And the other thing was, like, prior to that, I was actually working for 6 years as a volunteer with the Sallies. I was paid contract work. I was working as just a volunteer, running a drama group, but which involved being around kids, adults, right? And like from I think about 13-year-olds to like 35-year-olds. And so even then, there would always be more than one person in the room. I mean, we were organizing big, huge events, like traveling events, right? We'll go from town and put on a concert. And I was a drama unit leader, right? Which basically meant that I wrote and directed drama, little skits and put it on and had people act in it and, and so on. So basically stage work, right? And so then we'd have, my sister was in a band. She'd be the singer, like alt rock. And then there'll be like other like music and so on, and speaking to other youth groups and people that like off the street would come to these youth groups, and we'd put on these concerts because we got invited to these other places around Northland. But we always made sure, and we actually had, we actually went through like actual, what's it called, like courses on how to behave and what to do in certain situations and how to protect yourself, right? From certain things, so that like nobody could speak ill of you, or you didn't find yourself in weird situations where you're alone with someone, right? And so on, because you just want to make sure, because you're playing a role of a guardian to these kids, and their parents are trusting you to not harm them, right? Or say something stupid to them that they might take out of line or whatever, or might not even understand what you're trying to say because you're an adult and they're not. And so you got to be careful what you're saying. So, that's my background with, youth work. And the reason I'm saying that is because later in 2018 to like last year, right? Yeah. We put on like conventions. So we actually had a specific area for kids. And one of the thing was that I would have a lady, one of my good friends, who I became good friends through by putting this event on, who had experience with children, had a whole friggin' degree in childhood. I mean, in children, right? And so she was great, and like she'd tell me what I needed to do, how to make things work, and I'll go, yeah, you look after the kids, and I'll provide you volunteers. And young girls were there, high school girls were there, and then later we had library who work with children who have gone through the whole, police report thing, clearance and all that, so that they could look after the kids. And I remember one day saying, I don't mess around with kids, meaning that that's not my area. And everybody looked at me like, I'm like, oh shit, they misunderstood what I was trying to say. Because I was not in the hall, because I was saying, hey, I leave that up to those guys to take care of, because I want to make sure those kids are protected, that they have fun, their activities, because they're there for 5 hours from 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And they can go in out of the room, and their parents can come hang out with them and, paint, draw, make badges like this, and sort of, just make up little badges, press them up and cut them up and do themselves, and, from big ones to little ones. And I remember one kid made me one. I was like, oh, it's so cool. Like Drew and Credigal, my character, of course. And gets, oh, this is for you. I was like, thank you. I was like, really? You went into all that work, but you're giving it to me? Like, it's like, cool. And I've got it. I think it's in one of my, should have it in here. Or have I moved it out? Oh, I moved it out. I think it's in my container of it's somewhere here with all the badges. But so like that's what I'm trying to get at. Is like you got to go. You got to put people who work with children in positions of power over children. Because you want to know that the parents can trust you. And so, so here we go. And this is what happens a lot of time, right, with these monsters. So the kids are playing, out in town, on the street, whatever, hanging out with their friends. And these pedos size them up. Middle Eastern, East Asian, Pakistanis, darkies, brownies, right? And they think, oh, why are these kids out in the street? Look at these girls, these 12-year-olds. How about we offer them some takeaway, some food and some drink? Are you hungry? Are you hungry, little girl? I got some food. I'll buy you a drink, eh? You come to my house. Look, my friends and I. Come along. And the kids are going, oh, I'm a bit hungry. We don't have any money, maybe. That's the situation. Whatever the fuck it is, right? Kids, you're not walking around with $10, $20 in your pocket unless you come from a really rich family. And then if you are, then why the hell are you on the street? Right? I mean, now it's crazy. I'm like, this is like 20 years ago. Right? I know when I was a kid, I probably had like 50 cents in my pocket. Right? All I cared about was just riding on my, BMX with my friends later on, skateboarding. But around 12 years old, we were just running around in the backyard, in the parks, in the bushes, in the forest, whatever, because where I lived was it's a rural area, right? So the grooming has a really snake-like thing happening, right? It slowly slithers along. They don't go and get at you straight away. They go in and like size you up, right? Build up trust. Oh, remember last time we had so much good time, right? You didn't, nothing bad happened. Yeah, you had, hey, next time we see you, we offer you some more food. Come have some soft drinks, have a glass of Coke or Pepsi or whatever, orange juice, whatever. Have some fish and chips, So for a few weeks, could be 4 or 5, 3, 4, but laying the groundwork, because that's how grooming works. You can't just go in there like a monster and attack, because the reason we call it grooming is you slowly dress them up to make them think and believe and trust in you. Because, hey, stranger danger, right? But one day, at the in the flat, they wouldn't let us in the room because other people were in there, she said. They gave us a liter of vodka with no mixer and 10 fags. Oh, you're an adult now. Look, you're a grown up. Isn't that what every kid wants to be treated like? A grown up. Right? You're a grown up now. Hey, Nathaniel, how's it going, bud? Sorry, I was on the other screen as usual. So I'm reading that. Actually, I might stay on this one, and then try to somehow, no, it won't work. But I would try to, I'll pop back in and read it. Read your chats, guys, and appreciate you guys hanging out with me. But yeah, remember those 96 of these bastards, grew into 96. But this is what happened to one child. So yeah, They gave us a liter of vodka with no mixer, so straight vodka, 40% alcohol. Was that I've my first run-in with straight liquor was gin. I thought it was water. My granddad, I was with my granddad at this you know, my granduncle and my granddad, my granddad's brother, granddad's brother, I think so, or his brother-in-law. We drove us, and his Datsun over to this other place, and all the older men were just drinking around, and I was lying in the car, and I wanted a drink of water. I was thirsty. Remember, it's Fiji. Sorry, I should say it's Fiji. So it's like it was hot, and so I went out to where my granddad was, and the meeting, that in Fiji you have a meeting room, right? The bude, and everybody's sitting down on these, sackcloths, plastic sackcloths, on the ground, legs crossed. If you've ever seen that, you'll know what I mean. And they're all in a circle, which is normal. You're drinking kava, and granddad's got a little 12-ounce glass of gin. However, I didn't know it was gin. I thought it was water. So and before my granddad can go, oh, stop. It's like, it was gone. So it's probably watered down, but like still strong. And after that, and I'm probably maybe about 10 at that time, I just go to the car and I sleep. That's all I remember. I slept because I was just KO'd. First experience with alcohol, and don't recommend it. And so that was a bit watered down. This is straight, right? And the reason they do this, of course, it has double whammy, right? Two-sided sword, whatever you want to call it, double-edged sword. Is in the one sense, it makes them forget. It makes them lethargic. It makes not think straight. They don't know if this is what is happening is right or wrong, right? And I'm talking about boys and girls in this situation. So, because these bastards don't differentiate. So now remember, these are young 12-year-old girls, right? And they're drunk, like straight vodka, man. Those guys aren't getting drunk. They're just watching. Maybe they are drinking a bit, get their whatever, courage up, right? Whatever. They don't need to, though. But, but the girls, right? Basically KO'd, on the way to being KO'd. They're numb. So by the time we went in the other room, we were all really drunk. We gave you the trigger warning. Ruby said there were about 30 to 40 men waiting for us. Quote, unquote. They raped me continuously. This is a 12-year-old child. And these are 30 to 40. And I mentioned last time about memory of children, how the trauma makes you forget faces, numbers, because you're in so much disbelief that it's happening. You don't even know if it's fucking normal. You don't even know if this is what's happening to you is evil. That shouldn't happen to you, right? And so just look at the number. Like, these are adult males on a child. 12 fucking years old. One would finish And then the other one would come in. And it was just like that all night. "12-year-old child." Their religion teaches them that, like, if their prophet can marry a girl at 6 and then basically rape her at 9, because what else are you doing with a 9-year-old kid? Is she really going, "You're the prophet"? Tells them that it's okay. They've just basically, like I mentioned last broadcast, how they've limited their that they've lowered the age in Iraq to 9-year-olds for marriage. 9-year-old girls to marry to whatever age the adult male has to be, is like 90, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30. 9-year-old girls. So yeah, when people say, "Oh, they just like us, their culture, it's so peaceful," it fucking ain't. If your culture tells you that little girls can be, are pieces of meat to be abused, and even I find that hard to say. Like, I mean, like, does it pieces of meat? That these children are basically have no right to their bodies. They're there. It reminds me of like the line, and it's always like something that stuck with me from Nightbreed, right? Meat for the beast. It's it's a movie. It's movie based on a book called Cabal by Clive Barker. It's a horror movie, and he just, one of the monsters, creatures looks at a victim, at a person, and goes, "Meat for the beast," and he's the beast, all right? And he bears his teeth. And these guys are beasts. They're not human. To do. I mean, like, seriously, I would not be a good judge. I would not be a good lawyer. I would not be a good police officer, because I would use everything in my power to torture, to maim, to destroy these monsters, these beasts, these savages. But what does a 12-year-old do in that situation? All night long. 12 years old, 30 to 40 men from Pakistan, right? Vile pieces of shit, excuse for human beings, who should be instantly neutered and their balls chopped off, as far as I'm concerned. She said the abuse continued because the gangs threatened her and she felt there was no way out. How? Oh, they'd get our numbers, they'd come to our schools, they'd come near my house, they'd come everywhere, and they'd look for us and find us. So they were getting stalked. Her and her friends, her 12-year-old friends. These little girls being stalked by monsters, raped over and over and over and over again. But she said she was possibly raped over 100 times by men from all over the country for 4 years. So from the age of 12 to 16, this young girl and her friends were prey to monsters of East Indian and Pakistani Middle Eastern descent, darkies, savages, and monsters from that culture. Sadly, I have the same skin and as them, which makes me disgusted as F, right? But I'm not self-hating. Just saying, right? I'm not that. I'm just saying. It's just it makes my skin crawl. So, like I said earlier, right, when I was talking about 30 Days of Night, how these monsters converge on this town, just that, right? By men from all over the country, not county, country, not area, country. So the word went out, like I said earlier. Hey, Mo, Aziz, we got some girls down here when the cops don't give a shit about. Bring the boys. Let's go to town. And I bet they were recording them. I bet they sold those recordings as well to make money to send over to terrorists. Right? Send it back home to mom and dad. Because that's a huge network, isn't there? Like there's a whole dark web that's been proven by Interpol and FBI and CIA, well, CIA does a FBI, right? Like the whole internet, right? Cyber policing, that there is all these things happen on the dark web where recordings of child abuse, sexual abuse of all kids, babies, women is being shared. So can 100% be guaranteed that they would, making money off this shit. Because why not, right? I mean, why stop at just, sending out, calling in the boys? So there was men from Bradford, Nelson, Birmingham, Blackpool. Finbar probably knows more about this in those areas, right? She said, the gang took us everywhere. Oh, they were trafficked as well to other areas. 12-year-old girls. I saw a little clip just this week of a 2-year-old unaccompanied, which basically means a 2-year-old on her own, crossing the border in Texas into America with a paper that says her name and her I think it was like a contact number. Two-year-old Latin South American girl. Imagine what's happened to her across that wherever she came from, and by all those gangs, those drug traffickers, those human traffickers, those sex traffickers. What has happened to her? I remember, ICE saying like how in this America, right? ICE saying how they found like something about 40 sexually transmitted diseases on a little girl. Kids don't have those, only adults do, right? Sexual diseases. because how else would she would get it? Unless somebody had, you know. But the left and the mass media like to say that these things don't happen, right? That those darkies can't be savages. They can't be monsters. They're good people. The noble savage. Yeah, so she was trafficked, right? Put her in the back of the car or the van. Put the kids at the, put the 12-year-old girls at the back of the van, car, whatever, truck. Next town. Okay, let's go, boys. There she is. Money, money, money. Obviously, they're not just going to do it for nothing. Yeah. At a certain point, you just become numb to shit. Like women, right? Like when they're abused and stuff like that. So we understand. But when you're a child, imagine a child being numb to sexual violence. Just, yeah. In 2008, Ruby went to a sexual health clinic, which she said was a cry for help because there was nobody else to help us. That's 4 years of abuse later. Imagine being a 12-year-old, going through that for 4 years, and then finally realizing nobody gave a fuck about you. At the age of 16, you realize that you have to do something. And people can say like, oh, she's 16 now. She must. This is a child who's been abused from 12. Her brain's not thinking like a 16-year-old. She's still stuck as a 12-year-old. Nobody, no adults there. She's been trafficked. She's been stalked. She's been violated for 4 years by gangs, up to 30 to 40 men at a time. Been moved to different towns to, for men to have their way with her. Pakistani men, East Asian men, Muslim men. We told schools, social services knew what was happening. Again, nothing happened. So we went there, but we were given flavored condoms and sent away. Use these, little girls. You're teenagers now. Put these on them. So they won't, you won't get more diseases. So you won't have unprotected sexes. See, this is what the left always goes on about, condoms. Not, and I'm segueing here, but use condoms. Not abstain so you don't get pregnant. Think about your future. Protect yourself. Like you don't, yeah, we know children, not children, teenagers, yeah, boyfriend, girlfriend, all that. So we go, okay, safe sex. But maybe a bit of abstinence as well. Like, hey, how about not, because maybe your body isn't ready for it, and maybe you want to think about your future and really think about this because you want to have a good life, because if you're stuck And I remember I've talked about the other time about 13-year-old girls getting pregnant just so that they could go on government benefits. Yet now their mothers at 13. As one of my friends once said, like about whale rider lady, I can't remember her name, the girl who wasn't when her 19-year-old boyfriend got her pregnant, is like babies having babies. I remember when I was at film school when he said it to me, and I was like, shit, you're right. It's like, and other, because she's Maori and he was Maori, he was saying babies having babies, right? But think about this. 4 years of continuous rape, of sexual violence, hundreds of times in different counties, different towns, trafficked from 12 to 16 years old. She's just one of them. But like I said, those sexual health clinics aren't there to say, hey, what is really going on? They're like, here, have a cookie. So we were given flavored condoms and sent away. Imagine saying that to someone who's come to you for help at the end of a road because nobody else is fucking helping them. Not schools, not social services, no one. Because these kids are on their own. And then sent away. The review confirmed that Ruby had previously disclosed to the crisis intervention team that she had older boyfriends giving her vodka and sexually abusing her. So they noted this down. They were told, but they were like saying older boyfriends, because remember, she's been groomed. They're like her boyfriends now. They're not abusers. And this is the left mentality, is like, as well. I'm not going to say it's not the right as well, but like just the thinking, because I've been in leftist situations like this where the person's basically goes, if it feels good, do it. So so I can understand what happened to her. They basically, oh well, you and your, make it more pleasurable for you because you've got an older dude with you, right? Be the, to make it hurt less. Yeah, use this, use that. Because they want to placate you. They want to confirm and affirm, just like the trans movement, right? They want to affirm that that's what you are. Not that maybe there's something is happening in your life. Is there abuse in home? Is there violence? Why do you feel like this is your safety net? They were told, right? The crisis team was told that she was being sexually abused. Her older boyfriends. So the moment you go, well, hey, I've been tried with alcohol. As an adult, your brain goes, why do you need alcohol? Oh, because I really don't want this shit to happen to me. And because I don't want it, they get me drunk first. So I lose control. so they can have their way with me. In the same year, she was placed on a child protection plan, and the police were aware of her situation by the start of 2009. Ruby had an abortion when she was 13 years old. And this is where it gets disgusting. Even more so. Like, I mean, I'm like, if you're not disgusted already, right, of the behavior of these people around her that are supposed to be there to protect her, these government officials, these civil servants paid by British taxpayers, by British citizens to protect children in care, right, or in society from monsters. Ruby had an abortion when she was 13, and Greater Manchester Police took possession of the fetus to forensic examine it for potential DNA matches with suspects. Hey, Ruby. Hey, Ruby. We know you're being abused, but we don't give a shit. But to help our investigation on other stuff, we're going to take a baby. Your dead baby, by the way. We're going to make you more traumatized. The review said it was highly unacceptable that Ruby was not told police had taken it. Unacceptable. Disgusting is the word. Monstrous, horrendous, horrific, not unacceptable. They like to use these like easy words, like soft words, because they don't want to show that, you know, the real impact of what's happening. Because that's the way they speak, political speak, right? Excuse me, apologies. Now, where are we? I am going to finish off there because it just gets worse and worse. But I am going to link this into the chat so you guys can read it. We're about 2 hours and 22 minutes. So, but this is Ruby's story, and she's only one of so many kids. Because remember, that had this happen to her. Please, you know, like I always say, whatever I bring up here, you know, look into it yourself. You know, research it yourself, because I think that's the way we learn. That's the way we get better informed. We don't listen to just whatever the mass media tries and politicians try to twist to make it palatable, right? Where they hide the truth because they want to protect a certain type of people in society around the world. And they all happen to come from the Middle East or Africa, right? So please do look into the links there. I'm also going to put in another video that I was going to play that I didn't play. And this is, and also there is a documentary, as I mentioned, and I'm going to link that as well. And so this is the link to the, I linked it earlier, but here's another link. So this is the link from that video. This is the title of it, British Shame. It's a 45-minute video. You can always like do what I do when it's a long video. It's like, you know, speed it up a bit and you can watch it that way. And here is the movie, the TV special. It's an hour long. it talks about the same, same thing that and the other, but in the other post I just posted a link that I posted, but this is the actual documentary there on it. But I've known about like this since about 2018 when I returned to social media, when I returned to, from 2 years of sabbatical, depression, whatever, my blue period, as I call it, because my friends used to call depression the blue period. So yeah, thank you for hanging out with me today. Thank you for being in the chat. Please like, subscribe, and I'm going to stick to a schedule now. Wednesday, New Zealand time, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Today is Friday in New Zealand, so 4 days a week and around the same time. I'm trying my best to stay with the schedule, but my health isn't that great, so sometimes I'm a bit slow and so on, or late. But I will try my best to keep a schedule now because I'm taking this seriously. Taking these topics and talk about these things seriously, because I think it's more awareness, more we can think about what's going on in society, more we can be better, because information is power, knowledge is power, as they say, right? Education is power. So please educate yourself, and I'll continue to try to, because like I said, I always do the same thing. I'm always researching and trying to learn and be a better person. Not that much of a better person, but try my best. So ka kite anō. Have an amazing week. Have an amazing day. For all my American friends, happy Thanksgiving. Got a lot to be grateful for, to live in the to be alive and living in the West at this time. And I just want leave a comment on the videos, whatever. I will read them and I'll comment and I'll interact with me. I want to make this more about a two-way street rather than just me speaking and and you guys just watching. But thank you, and have an awesome week wherever you are, and we'll see you next time. Ka kite anō.